being part of something like a community of people or a club, or having a hobby where you interact with others with similar interests, that kind of thing is a protective factor against suicide. And I think that's why our belonging to the community we belong to is so important for my husband. My name is Melanie. I care for my husband who lives with a mental illness. This is my experience. In aiming to be an effective carer, I think I have to remember that what I'm going through right now is not the whole story, and that it's not all about the present time, and that I can look ahead to the future and have hope for the future. All of that understanding, that knowledge comes from a faith background. When my husband came back from Iraq the second time, and we were attempting to get back into the swing of things, get back into a normal life, as normal as you can, with somebody who's suffering quite chronically with post-traumatic stress disorder, I realised that the symptoms weren't going away. In those early days, the symptoms were things like looking under the car for a bomb, looking around the corner for any Arabs that might be out to kill him, going into a panic if he ever saw a woman dressed in full burqa in the shopping centre. He couldn't go to the beach because he couldn't stand the feel of the sand on his skin. It reminded him of the desert. And there was particular times of year, particularly the winter sun, the glare of the sun in his eyes reminded him of the desert sun, and he would flip out a bit and dissociate because he would think that he was back there. After my husband left the Defence Force, we moved back home to where my parents were for more support with the new baby that was coming along. At that time, I believed that I should do everything in my power to support him, and that pretty much my needs came last. His came first, and then the children, and then mine. I think for people leaving Defence, there's a real identity crisis, and I think that's when people become quite depressed and can eventually become suicidal. Our family had been really revolving around my husband's mental illness. I began to understand that this was quite harmful for our children. For a start, they were suffering from stress as a result of it, and from the lack of predictability in our life. We could plan something, and then my husband would decide, I can't do it, and then we'd all just decide not to do it. I'd heard about some carer courses on offer, and I decided to go and attend them and find out more about mental illness in general, and how carers can help with their spouse or their partner or their child with mental illness. And I learnt so much about what's normal in mental illness, and what other people in my situation experience. And I learnt that it was okay to set some boundaries in place. I didn't have to, I guess, reinvent myself all the time in order to make this partnership work. I think doing carer courses has taught me that the health of the carer is really important. That without the carer having some sense of wholeness in themselves, they're no good to anyone else. I can't look after my children, I can't look after my husband if I'm emotionally burnt out. In looking after myself, I'm teaching my children to look after themselves, and I'm teaching my husband to look after himself. These days, contemporary veterans don't join clubs or groups of people who are like-minded. They find themselves quite isolated. With these studies that I've been doing, I aim to be able to help other partners of veterans, particularly contemporary partners of veterans. I think the need is very great. I think the need will become greater over the next few years as more veterans from the Afghanistan and Iraq conflicts come forward for help, and I think their partners will need more support.